Hello again. Thank you very much. I said 11:25. You really nailed it. 30, and we are here with this awesome guy. He's a speaker in the Vue Day Alicante. Again, Nuxt is a trendy word today. It will be a more technical talk, I think. So Sebastien will explain. But yeah, I'm really glad to have Sebastien here. I saw him first time in Amsterdam in the 2018 conference. It was awesome, and the same goes for London. It was really a nice talk. So I'm really looking forward to your talk, Sebastien.
Thank you.
Good luck and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Another co-creator of Nuxt, Sebastien Chopin.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, why not? Okay. Let's start again. Hello, everyone. I am really happy to be here in Spain. I really like this country and the culture and the Ramon. So today I'm going to talk about the Nuxt.js internals. And first, I have a quick question. Who have seen the Nuxt.js? Why is it still? Who have seen the Nuxt.js source code? Can you raise your hand if you look into it? Oh, there is like 4 or 5 people. If you live, I can't see you. But so I guess my talk will be useful. I'm Sebastien Chopin, the author of Nuxt.js. You can find me on Twitter and GitHub with the @Nuxt username. So since Nuxt 2.0, we had. Should I stop moving or? Damn it! So since. Come on. Oh, you can give me the mic, I guess. Should be fine.
Hello. You can use this.
Okay. Is it better? Is it better? Yeah, I mean, we'll see if it breaks again. So we have now 8 different packages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 12, sorry. 12 packages. So it allows us to maintain it more easily and help people to maintain as well to help us contribute to Nuxt.js. So I will explain some of these packages. And we have different distribution. We have Nuxt, Nuxt.start, Nuxt.js. We also have this edge suffix. If you heard about this, Nuxt Edge, Nuxt.start Edge, etc. And these edge version are like Chrome Canary or Firefox Nightly. Every day we commit on the repository. We will publish a new release on NPM, so you can live on the edge. That's a terrible joke. So Nuxt dependencies. We are actually splitted the internals, so we are able to have 2 different distributions with 2 different dependencies. So Nuxt dependencies is actually 68 megabytes when you install it, and it has Nuxt core, CLI, builder, generator, webpack, and loading screen. And Nuxt.start is 8 megabytes because we have Nuxt core and Nuxt CLI. When I say 8 megabytes, I'm mostly talking of the node module size, because of course these packages has dependencies as well. So I don't know if you know that, but Nuxt isn't that dark. It's not super crazy. It simply generates your Vue application. So I don't know if you already look at this .nuxt directory. That's where it starts. When you create the pages, it will directly change .nuxt/router.js. So to show you that, here I have my Nuxt.js project. I'm looking inside this .nuxt directory, router. So as you can see, I have about and index. And if I create a test.vue file, it will directly update this file. So it will import the test, and it will also add the root automatically. As simple as this. So it's not super crazy. Your Vue application is right here inside this .nuxt directory. So you can tweak it if you want. I won't recommend it since it will be regenerated every time. But if you want to debug, this is actually a useful way to understand. If you want to look at where is async data, you can search and find inside this .nuxt directory. Next, we have the store. This is the same. When you create a store, a file inside the store directory, it will update this .nuxt/store.js file. The middleware. Layouts, not layout, .nuxt/app.js. So to show you, same here, it's actually importing this layout here. And if I add a layout, damn it. Okay, and then he updated it. So the app.js file is the main component. If you use Vue.js app, it's the same. You will have an app.js file or app.vue file. And if you have some CSS and you add it inside your .nuxt.config.js, it will also add it. It will import it inside the .nuxt/app.js file. If you have a plugin, then it will be imported inside .nuxt/index, and etc. If you want to look at the .nuxt component and you don't find the source code inside the Nuxt.js documentation, you can directly look inside these .nuxt components here. So if you want to understand what's happening with Nuxt link, you can directly look at this, and you will find the smart prefetch feature right there. So if you want to make a pull request there, you know where it is now. So actually, these files inside .nuxt are simply Lodash templates. I don't know if you use Lodash, but it's like underscore is the same. And we have this template syntax. So what Nuxt will do, it will actually look at the middleware directory, look at the files, generate an array, and then it will give this variable to the Nuxt Lodash compiler. And it will directly generate this file. And if you look at the source code, you look at Vue app, template, this is where the template lives, and this is why it's super weird. It's .js, so the autocomplete is not right inside VS Code, but this is how we created Nuxt, how we found a way to handle this pages directory and do this code splitting. So this is only Lodash template that will be generated. So this was for Nuxt Vue app. So you just learn, if you didn't know, how it works. Taking a break. Okay. Next, bundle your Vue app. If you remember, when we had Vue.js application 2 years ago, you had a build directory, and you didn't really want to look at this build directory because there was some Webpack dark magic. And if you had to upgrade from Webpack 4 to from Webpack 3 to Webpack 4, well, it was quite special. You will have to understand Webpack internals, and if you work for some agency or you don't really have time to understand all of these tools. They are really powerful, but it costs some time, and it doesn't help to build a website. I mean, visually. So we decided to integrate Webpack right inside Nuxt. So right now we use Nuxt Webpack 5. We use Webpack 5, sorry, and we have a pending pull request for Webpack. We use Webpack 4, and we have a pending pull request for Webpack 5. And we're working with the core team to make sure that the migration will be seamless and you won't have to change anything. As you know, Webpack takes an entry file, and from this entry file, it will parse the import, do all this magic, so you will have an overview of what's inside, so you can generate some bundle file. So for Nuxt, we will always load this .nuxt/client.js file. And if you use the universal mode, which is by default, it will also load the .nuxt/server.js file. The difference is quite small, actually. On the client, we will just say, mount the application, hydrate the server render HTML. And on server, we will just instantiate the Vue app and call Vue server render. For the modern mode, for those who don't know what it is, it's just a bundle. We just take the Nuxt client.js file and we change the Babel preset, so it will actually be a bundle without polyfills. So it's super cool for the evergreen browsers, which are Chrome, for instance, all these browsers that update themselves automatically. And Nuxt will automatically detect if this browser is an evergreen browser. We will give you the smallest bundle possible when you use this feature. So this is why we have 3 different loading bars here. So if you use the single page app mode, you will have only the client bundle. Oops. So Babel, we use Babel, of course, like most of the project using also Webpack. And we use Babel 7, and we have our own preset that add the polyfills, Babel preset env, the preset for JSX, dynamic imports, the decorator proposals, and class properties, and finally the runtime transform. You don't have to understand all of these. We actually work to make sure that you don't have to understand this, and you can focus on your application you want to build. We use Webpack Loader as well, so we can support Vue file, JavaScript file, JSX file if you want to use JSX. It's possible with Nuxt. Vue file as well, so you can use the latest JavaScript syntax inside your script, inside your Vue file. We have the Pug plain loader for those who like Pug. The TypeScript loader for TypeScript. URL loader is mostly for pictures. File loader is for movies. Style loaders to support all of these fancy CSS preprocessor, post-processor, and normal CSS. And we also have URL loader for the fonts. Actually, what URL loader will do is if the file is small enough, I don't remember the threshold, but if it's small enough, it will transform it to data64. So this way, the browsers won't have to make another request, and it will directly be injected inside the HTML. So this is for performances purpose. And we use Webpack Plugin, the extract CSS chunk. This is used only if you use build.extract.css true. So we will extract all your CSS to one CSS file. I don't recommend this, so we can keep this code splitting feature for CSS. We have the Vue Loader plugin. This is for the preloading and prefetching crazy stuff that you see in the header, so it makes your application even faster without worrying about this. We have Webpack bar for this fancy loading bar in the terminal and in the browser. Hard source plugin. You can activate it. This is some cache system, so it makes the bundling faster when you restart the server. But it has some issues, so we actually beta testing it, but we are waiting for Webpack 5 to support this caching by default. We have the HTML plugin that will give you the HTML with all the bundle. Environment plugin, so you can define your own environment, and also we use it for process.server, process.client, so you can use this condition, and Webpack will smartly eject some code, exclude some code inside the bundle. Bundle analyzer, this is when you run Nuxt build-a. For those who never use this feature, this is how it looks like. Oops. It will generate the bundles. So here we are in universal mode, so you can see the client and the server. And then you will have access to the bundles in a nice way, so you can see what's inside. Here we have Vue, we have core.js, which are the polyfills. We have Vue router, Vue meta. We don't have the store here, we don't have Vuex, because we didn't have a store directory. And we have our app, which is our client.js file that we can find again. We have our components as well here, like Nuxt client, nuxtlink.client, and then we have our pages that are code splitted. So it's really useful to run this before running in production, so you can spot some issues with your bundle. Maybe you imported some stuff, so This is good for the health of your project. And we have this Dhtml plugin that will change the Babel preset with this -m option or --modern. And if you don't know, when you run Nuxt build in universal mode, it will bundle your application to .nuxt/tist. This is right here. We have the client, we have the server, so we separate them so we don't leak any information like environment credential. And we serve only this directory to the browser. And then you have your page. So these, when you use the analyze mode, we will give the page name, but in production, you will have these weird hashes. This is for security purpose as well. This is why it's super weird right here. And that's it for Nuxt Webpack, Nuxt Babel preset. I hope you're not falling asleep because it's not over yet. So Nuxt can build. Actually, Nuxt build is a wrapper on top of these packages we have seen. So Nuxt builder you can require like this, but you don't have to do it. So it's just that you know how to do it. And when we build it, this is when you run Nuxt build actually. It will parse the directory, generate the templates inside .nuxt based on this nuxt/vue app. So we did that, so in a way we will be able to support React or Svelte, but we won't do this ourselves. We are actually mostly into Vue, but it opens this possibility. And we create the bundle renderer right here based on the Webpack, but same here, we can support other bundler like Parcel. I mean, it opens this possibility. And then we watch for file changes only in development. That's for the build step. You don't have to go further for this, but that's what we do. So now we have a Vue application generated. We have the Webpack configuration done, and we can build. So now we have to render our Vue application. So we have this Vue renderer package, and this is, we have two different modes. So for the SSR, we will use Vue server rendered, and for the SPA, we won't use it. And when we call these modules, we will load the Webpack bundle and put it inside the Vue server rendered. We will load the app templates. And finally, we will create this renderer ready to render any route, depending on the chosen mode. So if it's universal or SPA. And this is how you can use it then. You say nuxt.renderer.render route, you give them a pass like /about, and then you get the HTML, the preload files. And if you're on SSR, we have the content script policy hashes if an error happened or if the page was redirected. On client server, of course, we cannot have this right inside Node.js. Then we have to serve. We can render HTML, so now we can create our server. So for this, we have Nuxt/server. It's based on Connect.js, which is actually the core of Express.js, which allow us to have these fancy middlewares. And we forked Connect.js to have our own server now, so it can support Node 8 and dropping some legacy code, so it will be faster, and supporting async await by default. It's called Nuxt Metal, and will be used for Nuxt 3. So these are our server middlewares. So we have the compression middleware. This is used for rendering the gzip or deflate mode for the bundles and also for the HTML. Right after this middleware, we have the timing middleware, which is used only if you use this fancy option, server.timing. This is good when you do some profiling and you want to know the performances of your Nuxt application. It's disabled by default for performances reason. Then we have serve static, that will serve the static directory, and also the .nuxt/tist directory /client. We have a serve placeholder. So this is a middleware we created that allow us to avoid calling the renderer for unknown resources. For instance, you call /favicon.ico, but you don't have a favicon inside your static directory. Instead of calling the Nuxt renderer, and taking some CPU, because there is this .ico or .png or whatever, like an extension which is known, it will directly render the right content type and an empty picture. This way, we will reduce the charge on the server. We have the custom middleware here, so this is when you use server middleware. This is where when it's called, after the static, after the compression. This is also the modules can create server middleware as well. And then we call the Nuxt renderer here, that we have seen just before. And the error that will be called only if an error happened inside this middleware. I hope it won't be called, but if it happened, we handle it. Nuxt is configurable, as you know. This is super fast. We have a package for this, so we can define all of these default for you, and this get Nuxt config will merge your configuration and the default. You can look at them. If it's missing in the documentation, you can look at it. If you want to make a pull request, always. And we have the export part for Nuxt generate. Here, it's called the generator. So when you call Nuxt generate, it will actually require this module for that. It actually takes the Nuxt instance and the builder, and then this returns a promise. And it's quite simple, actually. It will wait for the Vue renderer to be finished. So of course, we can get the HTML for a specific path. It will run the builder. For Nuxt 3, it will be separated. So the generate part, we have this --no--build option. But later on, it will be only generating. So we will skip this step. And then it will generate each route that you specified, and the route in knowns by default. And it will save each route to dist, the name of the path of the route. So if it's about/index.html. And then you can directly push this dist directory, whatever you want, to any CDN. That was for generator. Next, hooks. So this is the life cycle of the whole Nuxt ecosystem. So you have the listener, but you can also do some modifier inside these hooks, inside this lifecycle. For Nuxt, we have the ready, error, close, and listen. So you can do some stuff depending on these hooks. For the builder, it's the same. For instance, you have the build compile. So you can change some Webpack stuff right here, or listen to some events, to whatever you want. That's actually possible. So you have access to these internals. All of these hooks are asynchronous, so you can do some asynchronous stuff right there. So you have the freedom to tell Nuxt, okay, you have to wait on this hook because I have to do some asynchronous stuff. Same for the server and Vue renderer. So this is actually how we use it to support AMP. When we render a route, we get the HTML, we remove all the script, and it's AMP ready. Same for generator. I will skip that. How you can use the hooks? You can use them in your nuxt.config.js with the hooks key. And we separated the semicolons, so you can use build, done, and then, for instance, these hooks will wait every time the build will be done. When you call Nuxt build, it will just generate an extra file and push it inside the build directory. And if you want to create a module that do this, you will use this .nuxt.hook inside your module, and it will do exactly the same. If you want to learn more, this is documented. So Nuxt has a heart, or mostly it has a core, and this is what combine everything together. So when you call new Nuxt.ready, I mean, the builder and the Nuxt core are separated, because for Nuxt start and for dependency purpose. But for new Nuxt, this is where modules happen. So we initiate the Nuxt server, we add your hooks, and then we load the module container. The module container will load the dev modules. I think you never heard that we support dev modules. This is a new key that we added a few releases ago that is only for build purpose. So you won't have to use a hook for that. And we have the modules. Then you will have the modules hooks. There is a typo here. And we will load the user's modules. I want to show you what actually a module can do. So this is in the core package. We have actually few files. We have the Nuxt class here, where we have the ready method that we call init. And what I want to show you is mostly this module container. So this is where we create it. And inside the init method, we will actually call the module container ready. And the module container will get Nuxt here at this.nuxt. It will call some hook, so you can, for this one, if you use programmatically, you can inject some modules with the hook as well. Then we will call in sequence the dev modules, same for the module section. So add module, actually, we will just resolve this path, so it can be a relative path, it can be a node module name. So this is why we have all of these functions. It can directly be a function as well. And then we will simply call it here with this as context. So this means that you will have access to the add module as well. So you want to go crazy, you can have a module that add other modules, but mostly you have access to this method. So you have access to add template. We have seen the template before. You can directly add a plugin. So if you want to create a module for your Vue plugin, you can directly create a Nuxt.js file. I will try to do some live coding. So a module in Nuxt is simply I will call it module.js. Is simply a function that can be asynchronous. Here we get the module options. And here you have access to this.nuxt. Because we are inside this class. Thank you. Thank you. So you have access to this.nuxt, you have access to this.options, which are the Nuxt option. So if you want to push some CSS, you can say this, and then you add this bootstrap CSS, for instance. So I just created a module that add the bootstrap CSS. And if I want to add a plugin, I can directly to add plugin. And then I will give the path of my plugin. So this has to be relative. And this will be like my plugin.js. And what's interesting here is you have access to variables since your plugin will be a Lodash template. And I think I'm good. So a module will start, thank you. A module will be simply a function that will be called, that can be asynchronous. And you have access to all of the Nuxt core. Even the module can listen to hooks, extend the Webpack configuration. If you know how it works internally into Nuxt, you can create any kind of modules you want. You can even create a module that will replace Vue to another framework. I hope no one will do that actually, but because it will be horrible to maintain. But that's actually what you do. You can extend the build, extend the routes, add server middleware if you want to add a module for Express that will add /API and enter the server and use this file system as well. That's something you can do only with the module. And that's it for the module and the internal. And I know it's quite boring, but some other people do talks on Nuxt, so I wanted to show you on this. Good news instead, Nuxt 3 is coming. It will be out before Vue 3 for sure, because I want to release this feature. The Nuxt generate will actually cache the async data, so it will directly be able to be fully offline when combined with Nuxt BWA, which means that you can use your API to call WordPress, for instance, and when you call Nuxt generate, it will cache the async data. So you can shut down your WordPress API until you have to regenerate again. And we will have a smart crawler. So we don't need to specify generate.routes anymore. So sorry, Marina, you actually talk about this. And the point is, we will generate the home page. And because we know the Nuxt link, we are able to know all of the other links that are going to have to be generated. So dynamic link included. And it's already tested on Nuxt.js.org. So if you want to look and try it by yourself, you can directly, and it's made only with Nuxt modules. So you can directly look at these modules, and we have this static module that actually do this caching of async data. So we are beta testing it on Nuxt.js before, and that's pretty simple actually. We use these hooks. We had a plugin, and on generate page, we actually extract the payload, the Nuxt state, push it inside a file, and we add a middleware called Nuxt static, and this Nuxt static middleware will simply match the next component, and instead of calling async data, it will directly call the payload.json, and that's it. But it will be by default inside Nuxt 3. Page underscore ID will be changed for the brackets. I'm sorry about this. But it will allow multiple params inside a root file. So I give you an example here. You have product, SKU, and variant. These allow you to have multiple params inside the root. And we will keep retro compatibility with V2 because it's just a condition. And it will be removed for V4. We will have Nuxt CLI. It took us some time because we have this fancy project I will share with you, but it's super secret. So it's a service orchestrator. And yes, we are starting to have a documentation on this. And Puya mostly work on this part because I told him that would be super great that when I change my nuxt.config.js file, it doesn't fully restart the server, I mean the Webpack build. So he worked on this crazy system that use this process fork. And since we splitted the builder and the server, we will be able to have multiple services, and it will be separated by process. One main issue, if you want to create your own API inside Nuxt using server middleware, we don't recommend it, because when you call an API and in the same time someone is calling your Nuxt application to render a route, a view route, it will use some CPU and will slow down your API, so it's better to have an external API. But with Workstation, we will be able to have two different processes and having this load balancing. So this is super fancy, super crazy, but it's working pretty well. And we're also working on a dashboard to manage all of these processes and later on the configuration. But this will be easier to make at first. We will have this Nuxt add, and HTTP will install this at nuxt/HTTP module. So we will work on this official module and well-maintained module, because in this ecosystem, for instance, we can take Webpack or events of Vue plugin. We have no metrics to know if this plugin is still maintained or no. And we want to avoid this issue. And we will have a system to maintain and to watch, to monitor all of this module to make sure you install quality module. We'll have Nuxt test based on Jest and Nuxt create that will bootstrap a small project. And you can learn more on our RFC. One last thing, or one more thing. We just released, Nuxt v2.8, and there is this grouping of SSL logs that you can see. So this is on client side. And when you refresh the page, you have the SSL log, and they are grouped together to avoid polluting the console. And we also have a build indicator for hot module replacement. So you can see at the bottom right here, when I will change the page, the image is not the right GIF. But I will release this article so I can show you here. So, I'm changing here, and you can see here we have, okay, you know what? I can do a live demo because I have the last version of it installed here. And if I change my page here, okay. This is not running. So, okay. So the point of all of this is to avoid looking at the terminal. We want to make sure that with Nuxt, you just have to run the command with the terminal, and then you can directly work with the editor and the browsers. 2 windows is enough. So I have my about page, okay. And I edit it, I save it, and as you can see here, we have this fancy build indicator. This is fast because it's a hello world. But if you start working on a huge project with SaaS, it can take some time. So this is good to have some indicator right inside the browser. So that's the most fancy option we added for 2.0. And this is documented. And you can disable it if you want. So this is released. I made the tweet just before starting this talk. If you want to share it, you're more than welcome to do it. And thank you very much for your time. And you can find the link here.
We have time for questions if you want. Awesome, thanks, Sebastian. I'm not sure if you guys have any question for Sebastian. Yes? So I will get to you. Give me a moment because I think you also need a microphone, right? Try again because we replaced the battery, so it should work now. Okay, try. Say something there.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I think it works.
Yeah, I think too.
So we have here Pekka.
Hello, I'm
Hello.
Pekka, designer from Finland. Thank you for a great framework. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
One question about images. You're currently using URL loader for images, but it's a really common problem to have responsive images and websites in a compressed format and image screensets. Are there any plans to add some new loader or add-on to handle all that automatically, or is it something that is out of the scope? Because right now it seems like there's no easy solution for that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I want to show first is that we have, normally you can configure the loader. So it should be inside build. Oops. We have the loaders here, but it doesn't mean that you can configure. So what I would suggest is, depending on your need, we added this loader because it's what was Vue using and what was recommended for most of the project. But for some project, you may want to change these loaders, like you said. I will suggest to use a module for that and replace the loader. So you can directly use with build.extend. Extend. Yeah, I can imagine. We are actually working to use Webpack chain and giving this extend chain function, so you will directly use Webpack chain. That is easier when you want to change the loader. But yeah, I guess it was pretty difficult to change the raw Webpack configuration.
Any other questions? Apparently not. So, Sebastian, thank you very much.
Thank you.